Our last video on Toyota automatic transmission fluid service got a lot of attention, and we had tons of people asking the same question. What about the electronic hybrids? So today, we're answering that. We're working on a 2025 Toyota Camry Hybrid SE. I'm going to show you how to properly service the eCVT transmission step by step and talk about how it differs from the other CVT systems. Most people think hybrids don't need transmission maintenance, but that's not exactly true. The eCVT in this Camry still uses specialized fluid to keep the internal motors and gears running smoothly. The big difference is that this system doesn't have clutches or shift points like a conventional 8-speed automatic transmission. But there's still plenty going on inside that can wear and contaminate the fluid over time. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how this transmission differs, how to change the fluid safely, and why this is one of the smartest services you can do to keep your hybrid running at its best. Before we dive into the service, let's take a quick look at how the eCVT in the 2025 Camry Hybrid works. All right, before we dive into this service, let's take a quick look at how the eCVT in the 2025 Toyota Camry Hybrid works and how it's completely different from the traditional 8-speed Toyota automatic and even the belt-driven CVTs that you see in other brands like Nissan. A conventional automatic uses multiple gears, clutches, and hydraulic pressure to shift between fixed gear ratios. That's what gives you that familiar feeling of the car changing gears as you accelerate. A Nissan-style Jatco CVT works completely different. It uses metal belt and two variable pulleys or sheaths that constantly change diameter to vary the ratio. It's purely mechanical, relying on high hydraulic pressure to squeeze that belt between the pulleys. That design can deliver smooth operation, but also creates friction and wear over time. Toyota's eCVT, on the other hand, doesn't use any belts, no chains or pulleys at all. It's a gear-driven system built around a single planetary gear set that links the gas engine to two electric motor generators. One motor controls the engine speed and charges the hybrid battery, while the other helps drive the wheels. By adjusting the balance between the engine and those two motors, the system can create an infinite range of gear ratios electronically, with no shifting, no belt, and no pulleys. And that's why hybrids feel so smooth when accelerating. Because there are no clutch packs or torque converter, the fluid's main job here is to cool and lubricate the gears, the bearings, and electric motor, and the components inside the case. Over time, heat and microscopic wear still contaminate that fluid, just like any other lubricant. Changing it periodically helps keep that transmission cool, protects the internal parts, and keeps those electric motors running efficiently. So even though Toyota calls the eCVT maintenance-free, if you plan to keep your Camry Hybrid for the long haul, doing a fluid exchange is one of the smartest ways that you can extend the life and the performance of your transmission. Let me walk you through a couple of the products and tools that we need in order to perform the service on this car. I've got here this Toyota eCVT-specific transaxle fluid. This is the TE version required for this car. I've also got here my transmission fluid filling tool, and if you haven't seen some of my other transmission fluid videos, I've used this a couple times in there. We'll demonstrate it again in this video. I've got here just a power tool to take off some lower covers and a 10mm socket, and then we'll need a 24mm wrench, or you could use a socket and a ratchet as well, 24mm, and we need a 10mm Allen head socket as well with a ratchet. Then I've got here a little clip tool. This will help us get some of the clips off the lower cover, and I always like to keep with me a little dipstick I make out of a zip tie. This helps us check the fluid level a little more accurately, and then I've got a couple of new drain plug washers. I almost forgot, we're going to need a torque wrench as well. I'm going to open the hood of this car for only one purpose. I want to show you that there's no reason to open the hood of this car for performing a transmission service. There's no dipstick in here. You can barely even see the transmission is covered under here by hybrid components. So there's not much we need to do under here. I'll leave it open. Maybe we get a little bit of extra light on the situation while we work on this, but we need to get underneath the car. Let's get it up in the air. In order to access everything we need to work on here, we just got to pull the giant cover off the bottom of this car. So there's a separate little access panel here for the oil change. We can leave that in place, but there are 4 bolts we can access on the front. 2 of them have some holes in here. And then 2 of them, you have to kind of move this corner down a little bit to get it out of your way, unless you want to take this entire front cover off, which I wouldn't recommend. These are little plastic ears on there. They're not going to break, and they'll quickly move back into shape. There's your 4 bolts in the front. And then we've got a bunch of clips, 6 of them specifically we have to take off. We'll start our way over here. You just want to pull the center part of each tab down. And I'm just using a clip tool like this one. A screwdriver will suffice if you have that. And one more, I just have to hold this cover up as we pop this one. And then this whole cover should slide out towards the back and down, and there's your cover. Now we've got the cover off, we have access to our fill plug, and this is also our level check, and we have access to our drain plug right here. So this is the 24 millimeter. We'll be using this wrench on here. Pop that loose. Make sure you've got your washer attached to your plug, and then you can easily check your level right now. I can stick a finger in there and see if we got some fluid on it. Okay, check your level and condition, and we'll get our bucket out here. We'll get ready to drain this. To remove the drain plug in here, I'll be using my 3/8 drive ratchet with a 10 millimeter Allen socket. We can put this in here and snap it loose. Okay, and then, you know, when I did my last transmission fluid video, a lot of people were asking how much fluid comes out of it. I didn't have a great answer for you, so I think this time I'm going to go ahead and measure it for you. We'll see if we can get this in the bucket without making a mess. Okay, so you can see there I made a little bit of a mess, and I had a lot of people asking me when we did the 2018 Toyota Camry with the 8-speed transmission. They were wondering if you could just drain it into a bucket, measure what you took out, and fill it back up. I guess a lot of people were intimidated by the process to get the transmission to the proper fluid temperature. This demonstrates or illustrates a good reason why that's hard to do, because it's not always easy to get all the fluid into a bucket. I suppose if you had a really wide pan, you could do that and then transfer it into some sort of a graduated container or measuring device. Not always the easiest way to do it, and I'm always concerned that if that's the only method that you have to refill your fluid and you lose a bunch of it, or if you lose any of it, you really don't have any idea how much to put back in. You don't have any way to quantify the stuff that you leaked out. So just wanted to mention that while we're here. The good news is that this vehicle doesn't have a crazy refill procedure. We're going to talk about some of the methods that Toyota recommends if in the event that you need to flush it, or you have some contaminated fluid that you need to flush out. And we'll go through the rest of the procedure here. I want to show you how to do that and how we activate this thing into maintenance mode. While this fluid is draining, I want to take a minute to thank you for your support for our channel. Your viewership really helps the OrtoTech Garage reach more people who need real, trustworthy automotive information. We make this content to help save you time, save you money, and avoid costly mistakes, and to better understand what's happening under the hood. But here's the thing, the best way you can help us grow and keep making videos like this is by sharing our content and leaving comments. When you share a video with your friends, your family, or even your favorite car groups, it helps more people learn and keeps this community growing. And then when you comment, it tells us what topics you want to see next, what questions you have, and what's working for you. We read as many as we can, and your feedback genuinely shapes the future of this channel. So if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and then most importantly, share and comment. We appreciate every single one of you who help our channel, and thanks for being part of the OrtoTech Garage family. All right, now we've let that evacuate as completely as I think we can. There's not even a drip anymore. I just want to wipe down the mating surface, make sure there's no dirt or debris on there. I'll be putting our new drain plug washer on, and then we're going to go ahead and install this right back in here. We'll tighten it up snug. Now, at this point, there is a little bit of an option for you. We've got a variation on the service, okay? So I can tell you what the instructions provide for us in the field is to do this service multiple times, and Toyota's unclear information is whether or not they want you to do this and every time you do a service, or only in the event that you've got some contamination of your fluid, okay? So my advice to you would be, Let's use a logical approach on here. I can tell you we've drained this fluid out, and we've got about 3 quarts in here, just a shade over 3 quarts. The specification on this car is like 3.88, I believe, or 3.9 quarts, somewhere in that range. So you can see we still have a little bit of fluid left inside this unit. If you had fluid that was severely dirty, I would say stick with the way Toyota's procedure is asking you to do it. They want you at this point to fill the fluid back up, which we're going to show you how to do. They want you to put the car in maintenance mode, run it for 30 seconds, exit maintenance mode, come back here and do this process all over again. We're going to drain the fluid again, we're going to fill it back up again, put it back in maintenance mode another time, we're going to run it for 30 seconds, we're going to shut it off, take it out of maintenance mode, come back in here and drain it one more time and refill it for the 3rd time. Okay, so I want to keep in mind here a couple of things. Well, I understand this fluid is costly. I think the gallon is, you know, somewhere around 60, 75 bucks or something like that for 4 quarts of fluid. So if you don't want to spend a few $100s in fluid and you don't think you need to do this service 3 times, by all means don't do that. It's okay, I believe, especially if we're maintaining this more frequently than what Toyota is asking us to do. So I can tell you this, it's very difficult to find any maintenance schedule for Toyota's eCVT unit. There's nothing in particular they're telling you that there's no specified maintenance, but I can tell you just based on experience, I don't think I'd let this go anymore, certainly not any more than 50 or 60,000 miles, and I still prefer the 30,000 mile intervals. Okay, and I want to show you why. This vehicle we're working on just happens to be the only one I could get my hands on to be able to create this video for you. So this car has got extremely low mileage. It was not ready for the service yet. Only 15,000 miles on this car. That being said, I want to show you, if I can get you a good look in here, the condition of this fluid after 15,000 miles. Now, when I checked the fluid up here at the top, it looked really good. It was really clear, it was hard to see, but now that I've got it into a clean bucket, I can tell you it looks pretty dirty compared to the new fluid, okay? And this is part of the trouble that I have is that, you know, we're not really told when to change this fluid. We're not exactly told how many times we should flush it, although Toyota is recommending a 3 times flush on this particular fluid when you do it. So I'm going to leave that up to you, okay? I would say use common sense, use your judgment, use your wallet as a guide. If you don't want to spend a couple $100s in fluid and you think one service is enough for you, by all means, I think you can do that. It certainly beats not servicing the transmission at all. So I'm going to take a little bit of our old fluid here we just drained out of this transmission, and I want to get a little sample here in a cup. We'll see what that looks like. And I want to do the same thing. I've got this brand new fluid here. We're going to put some of this in there as well. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so I think visually this is somewhat impactful. And I just told you this car is a 2025 model. It's only got 15,000 miles on it. And you can already see the condition of the 2 fluids, okay? So this is the one we took out. I'm not saying it looks terrible. I'm just saying it's obviously dirty and it's obviously had some use on it. So all I can say to you, we were talking about common sense approach to these things. I think you should do something similar if you're going to service your transmission. I like the 30,000 mile interval. I'm going to stand by that probably till I'm dead. I know the engineers at Toyota are going to hate me for it. I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are going to say this is way too early, and you're entitled to your opinions. My job here as an auto technician is to make your car last as long as it possibly can with as least expense as possible over the long term. If you just got a leased car and you just want to get it back, turned back in, and you don't want to do any maintenance, that's fine as well. Whatever works for you. I know a lot of my clients, they're driving Toyota for a reason. They want to get 300, 400, 500,000 miles out of their car. They plan to keep it for 25 years. And if that's the case, I think you should err on the side of caution. Now that we've talked about fluid, I've given you 2 options on there. We can do a single drain and fill, like we're going to do on this car, or you can do Toyota's prescribed process where they want you to do it 3 times. 3 drains, 3 fills, okay? So either way, if you're going to do the 3 times, you wouldn't have installed your new drain plug gasket. Just reuse the old one a couple of times until your final installation, okay? We're going to do our final installation now, so we're just going to go ahead and torque this to 37 foot-pounds, okay? Right there. All right, easy enough. And then we need to put some fluid in. For this filling procedure, I'm going to be using my Mityvac tool. You may have seen this in my other videos, but I like this tool a lot. It just makes it easy to fill transmissions, differentials, and things like that. We're going to take this center component out, the pump itself, and we're going to fill this up with a little over 3 quarts of our Toyota fluid here. Now you can see how clean this fluid is coming out, just like it was in the cup before. And I wanted to point out too how, I'm making a little bit of a mess here as we do this, but I wanted to point out here, as you watch this fluid flow, how viscous it is. You can see this is not really like an oil. It has more of a consistency of water or something. It's really fairly thin in here, so keep that in mind. And I'm going to fill this up to a little past the 3 quart mark. Getting pretty close. I'll probably go about 3 1/4 because I probably won't get the last little bit in there anyway. Okay, should have plenty of fluid there for what we want to do. Let's get it in the car. So here we are with this tool locked down tight. We need to pump it up to get some pressure in it. That's going to force the fluid out. So what I'll usually do, this has a little valve on it. I like to turn that off so we don't have any fluid flow. I've got this adapter in here that I selected for this unit because it fits in here nicely. It actually hangs on there. It's one of the things I like about this Mityvac tool is that it's got little quick connect adapters and a whole set of adapters that come with it to fit all different styles of transmissions. We got ones for Volvos and Nissans and Toyotas and all kinds of stuff. And it just really works great for us in the independent garage because we have all the tools we need to fit just about all these transmissions. So anyway, we're going to pump this up. We got to get some pressure in the system. The more pressure we put in there, the faster the fluid flows, the quicker we can get this full. It does have a gauge on it, a green zone and a red zone, so generally don't want to exceed the green zone by much if we can avoid it. Should be good. And then I'll just show you what this looks like when I open the valve. There you go. Got some clean fluid coming out. It's about the speed it's going to come out of there. We're going to get it in here and we'll fill. And you just want to be careful in here. Make sure your adapter doesn't fall out after using that. There's lots of other tools you can use. If you want to put some links to this Mityvac one, I'll put some links to some ones that are much less expensive that do probably the same job. So you have some options for you if you're looking for tools to do something like this. It's really difficult to get this up in here with a 5-gallon jug unless you have some way to force it in. In some of my other videos when we've done transmission fluids and differential fluids, I've mentioned also a suction tube basically. It's a long cylinder, looks like a syringe where we can fill it with fluid and then just push the fluid in. Those are fairly inexpensive as well. Not nearly as fancy as this, but they will get the job done. All right, we need a little more pressure in this system. Now I'm trying to show you this on camera. Normally I would have this thing on the floor. It gives me a little resistance against the floor, makes it easier to pump. So if you see me struggling and sweating, that's why. So I think we've got about a quart to go in here, maybe a little less. We'll keep an eye on that gauge. If it runs low on pressure, we need to pump some more. So I wanted to mention in here, if I didn't already, that there is no specified fluid temperature in this. I know we've done some other videos on the Tundra, we've done a video on the Camry, and in those videos, fluid temperature was extremely precise. We had a very small window where we needed to check the fluid. Now I can tell you in the procedures on this, there is nothing outlined for a specific fluid temperature. So I know some of you will ask me, can we do it while it's warmed up? Should we wait till it cools off? The real answer is I'm not exactly sure, but I don't think it's going to make a whole lot of difference on this car. Otherwise, Toyota would have went out of their way to specify that, okay? So there's nothing in the instructions on here that say to do it at ambient temperature or to do it at operating temperature. I would tell you if you wanted to warm it up and drain it, I think that's a good idea. Obviously, when we're putting fluid in, we know it's going to be cold, and so does Toyota. So I think that's just the way the process is going to work. In the real world, a lot of times we got cars that are coming in here. People just drove them in off the road. They're hot. We need to service them. They might be waiting for a car. It's not always possible to let it cool down all the way. So use your judgment on that as well. Like I said, there's no specified temperature for you to be draining or filling this fluid. Now that we got it full, we want to take a little sample here and see how close we are. That's where I like to use this little tool. It's a zip tie. I usually just bend it over 90 degrees. It helps me to get in the hole and kind of see how far from the bottom we are, right? So we're trying to fill this up to the bottom of the hole. And by bending this, I can lay it flat in there. And I can kind of get a little bit of a sample once it's in there and see where it sits. And I can tell you with this fluid is extremely clean. It looks like we need a little bit more fluid. I believe we're probably somewhere past the 10 millimeter mark below the hole. Okay, just trying to check that. I know it's really difficult for you guys to see on here. As a matter of fact, it's difficult for me to see on here. But we're pretty close to where it needs to be. I might put another splash of fluid in here and see if I can get just a tiny bit more in it, to the point where it overflows, and then we know for sure that we're good. All right, so we're just going to put a little bit more in here until it starts to dribble out on us. And we know it's above the bottom of the hole, and then we'll let it trickle until it gets even with the hole. So the spec on here is somewhere between 0 and 10 millimeters below the hole. So 0 is at the bottom of the hole, and then 10 millimeters below. There it goes. I'm going to turn this off. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of running down my tool right here. Let me pull it out. Oh, making a mess. All right, so you can see that fluid coming out now at a pretty good pace. So it's clearly over full right now. We want to let this thing go till it's not dripping anymore. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I'm so used to cars being level on our rack. You know, we've got adjustments on our legs for our rack. Our racks are level and those types of things. We try to put the cars up in the air so they're level. If you're doing this at home, make sure your car is level as well. Don't have just the front end jacked up. It could affect some sort of degrees of variation there in the fluid level if your car's sitting with the front end high or something like that. So just keep that in mind. You know, Toyota always tells you they want plus or minus 1 degree or something in their instructions. So try to have your vehicle as level as possible while you're checking the fluid level. All right, we've got this thing down to a pretty slow drip right now, and we're right at the bottom of that fill hole there. So that's where the level should be at the maximum, okay? So we're gonna be putting our new drain plug gasket on, and we'll put this back in here and torque it down. Now I'll mention again, if you're putting new drain plug gasket on and you plan to do this 3 times like Toyota's recommended procedure, if there's contamination or your fluid's just dirtier and you want to get that extra half a quart out of the system, flush it the best you can, don't put your new drain plug washer on now. Save that for the last time you cap it up, okay? So we're going to put this in here, we're full, and we're going to torque it down 37 foot-pounds again. I've got my 24 millimeter socket here. Let's see if we can get this tight. There it is. All right, at this point, you're going one of 2 directions. Either we're putting the cover back up on here for good, or we're getting inside the car now. We're going to enter maintenance mode. So if you're the type of person that wants to flush this out and do the 3-time procedure like Toyota prescribes, stick with me here for just a little bit. After we get this cover on, we're going to get you inside the car and show you how to enter that maintenance mode. Just as a reminder, I've got 6 plastic clips and I've got 4 bolts that go along the front. When we put this cover up, we need to tuck the front up over this front air dam, okay? So we didn't take this off for a reason. We didn't need the extra work, but we still need to slide up and over that in order to get in there. We also need to get in these 2 holes in here fairly deep. So just make sure you have a little bit of an extension on your socket. And a shallow socket works best to hold that in place and allow you to put some pressure on it to get the screw started, or I should say the bolt started. I also wanted to point out here, these clips. If you're like me and you end up closing the clips and locking them, you can use a tool in here like last time, but sometimes it's just easier to push on the pintle on the back of it and then make sure you start in this position where they are out like this. Otherwise, you won't be able to get this tab in the hole and lined up, okay? Let's put these clips in here to hold it in place. So when we put this cover up, we just want to get the front of this up above that front air dam. Line up all your holes, as many as you can get anyway. Make sure your tab is pulled out, and then we'll just get those 2 little fingers in the hole, twist it a little bit if you need to, sit it flush, and then push the center in. That'll hold it in place. Now once you've got 1 or 2 in there, this thing should hang on its own. It's hanging on that front air dam because we didn't take it out. Let's line up a couple more holes and see if we can get all these clips installed around the perimeter here, and then we'll go for those bolts in the front. And I dropped one right there. 2, 3. All right, there's 6 of those. So in these little corners, this is the one you were saying you've got to get all the way up in the hole. Sometimes it's easier to use an extension. I would normally do it with this and go real slow, but I don't want to teach you guys to start bolts with an electric tool because you have a tendency to cross thread stuff if you're not really careful, okay? So if you're feeling advanced, go for it. If not, I'm just showing you how you might want to do it yourself. Once they're started, of course, you can switch tools. Go back to your little electric cordless. And then we want to start these other two by hand. We can reach them easily. Just pull that little corner down on the front air dam. We'll get these two caught, and then we can tighten all four of these up right here. There's 1, 2, 3, and the last one. Okay, that's it for the cover. All right, before I get you into maintenance mode, I just want to talk for a second about the purpose of maintenance mode. As you know, with a hybrid, the engine starts and stops on its own, whenever it feels like doing it. So when you're working on a car, especially when we're trying to purge the air out of a cooling system, there's a lot of scenarios where we want to enter maintenance mode. But what that allows us to do on these hybrid vehicles is allow the engine to run for us and an extended period of time without it shutting off again. So there are a few components to maintenance mode. We start it up in maintenance mode, it'll just continue idling for us until we take it out. If we hold the throttle halfway, it'll give us about 1500 RPMs steady. And if we put our foot all the way to the floor on the throttle, it'll give us 2500 RPM steady. So we've got a few different scenarios. We can operate this in maintenance mode here stationary in the garage. And what that allows you to do is either warm a car up, or it allows this transmission to circulate some of that fluid while it's running. So I think that's really what Toyota's getting at here by having you go into maintenance mode, is allowing that fluid to circulate. So if you're planning on flushing the transmission, which I assume you might be if you're watching this far in the video, then you'll want to let this run about 30 seconds or so maintenance mode, and then exit maintenance mode by turning the power button off and letting it sit for 30 seconds. So that's the process to exit the maintenance mode, and let me show you how to get into it now. It's real simple. Just follow these steps here. I'm going to try to give you the best illustration I can. We're going to press the power button 2 times. 1, 2. No foot on the brake, just 2 times on the power button. Now here's the procedure. We're going to pump the accelerator pedal 2 times to the floor. 1, 2. We're going to put our foot on the brake, shift this into neutral. We're going to hit that accelerator pedal 2 times to the floor. 1, 2. And then we're going to put it back in park. And then we're going to go 1, 2 on the accelerator pedal to the floor. Now we're in maintenance mode. All we have to do is step on the brake and press the ready button. We're going to start it up, okay? And what that does, you hear the engine starting up right now. That's going to allow this thing to run and idle so that you can allow the fluid to circulate, or whatever other procedure you're trying to work on this car where you need it in maintenance mode. Now I wanted to show you one more thing over here. This dashboard is illuminated here, and it's telling us the traction control is turned off. And we've actually got a door open on there. And then it's saying CDY-2E. Okay, that's the message that's displayed on there. So it's basically just telling you that it's in maintenance mode right now, and it's going to stay here until you exit maintenance mode by turning off the vehicle and waiting 30 seconds. So today we walked through exactly how to change this eCVT fluid on the 25 Toyota Camry Hybrid from start to finish. You saw how the process works, what tools you need, and a few pro tips to make this job a little bit faster and a little bit safer. I hope this video helped you out a lot. Please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you ring that bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. We've got a new release coming every Thursday. And don't head out just yet. Stick around, watch some more of our content. We've got another great video for you here that I think you'll really enjoy. Also, be sure to share this video with your friends and family. Drop a comment below. I read as many of these as I can, and your feedback really helps shape what we make next. Thanks again for watching and for being part of our OrtoTech garage community.